Article 300.14 of the National Electrical Code states that abandoned cables or conductors shall be removed, and any openings into the wall or ceiling through which such cables or conductors pass shall be sealed. Article 300.15 states that unused openings in boxes and conduit bodies shall be effectively closed to afford protection substantially equivalent to the wall or ceiling surface through which the opening is made. While the National Electrical Code requires the removal of abandoned cables, it does not explicitly prohibit cutting dead wires that cannot be removed. Leaving cut wires in the wall can pose a potential safety hazard if they become energized in the future. It is best practice to remove or seal any unused openings to maintain the integrity of the wall structure and prevent the spread of fire or smoke. Cutting wires can weaken the structure of the wall if they are load-bearing. If possible, remove the dead wires. If you have access to the wires through open walls or ceilings, it is best to remove them and seal any openings. If removing wires is not feasible, cut and seal them. If you cannot remove the wires, cut them as close to the box as possible and cap the ends with electrical wire nuts. Then, seal the opening with caulk or foam. To indicate that the wires are dead, label them with electrical tape or a tag that says "Dead wire, do not connect." If there is a possibility of future renovations that may expose the cut wires, it is advisable to remove them completely or document their location for future reference. Firstly, consult with a licensed electrician to ensure compliance with local codes and regulations. Secondly, use appropriate safety precautions when working with electricity. Thirdly, dispose of any removed wires properly at a recycling facility. When dealing with electrical work in older homes, particularly during renovations, it's crucial to address abandoned or dead wiring properly. The National Electrical Code provides guidance, but practical considerations often come into play. This discussion will cover the relevant sections of the National Electrical Code, potential hazards, and recommended approaches for handling dead wires, particularly when complete removal isn't feasible. The primary directive from the National Electrical Code concerning abandoned wiring is to remove it. This means that any cable or conductor that is no longer in use should be physically taken out of the electrical system and the building structure. Furthermore, any openings created in walls or ceilings where these cables or conductors pass through must be sealed. This requirement serves multiple purposes. Firstly, it eliminates the risk of future confusion or accidental energizing of dead wires. Secondly, it prevents the spread of fire or smoke through openings in walls and ceilings, maintaining the fire-resistant integrity of the building. Thirdly, it removes potential hazards like insulation breakdown or rodent infestation associated with unused wiring. However, in older homes, especially those undergoing partial renovations, complete removal of abandoned wiring may not always be practical or feasible. Wires might be embedded in walls, run through inaccessible spaces, or intertwined with active circuits. In such cases, simply cutting the wires and leaving them in place might seem like the only option, but this practice raises several concerns. One concern is the potential for future confusion or accidental energizing of the cut wires. Even if the wires are known to be dead during the renovation, there's a risk that someone in the future might mistakenly connect them to an active circuit, creating a safety hazard. This is especially true if the wires are not properly labeled or documented. Another concern is the impact on the structural integrity of the wall or ceiling. In some cases, old wiring might be attached to structural elements or provide support to the wall or ceiling itself. Cutting these wires could weaken the structure and lead to problems down the line. Furthermore, leaving cut wires in the wall can create a pathway for pests like rodents or insects to enter the building. These pests can damage the wiring insulation and create fire hazards. So, what's the recommended approach for handling dead wires when complete removal isn't possible? While the National Electrical Code doesn't explicitly prohibit cutting dead wires, it's important to follow certain best practices to minimize the risks. Firstly, cut the wires as close as possible to the electrical box or junction point. This minimizes the length of the abandoned wire and reduces the chances of it being accidentally energized. Secondly, cap the ends of the cut wires with approved wire connectors, such as wire nuts. This provides insulation and prevents the wires from shorting out or coming into contact with other conductive materials. Thirdly, seal any openings in the electrical box or junction point with appropriate materials such as caulk or expanding foam. This prevents the entry of pests and helps maintain the fire-resistant integrity of the wall or ceiling. Fourthly, label the cut wires clearly as dead wire or circumflex do not connect. Use permanent markers or labels that are resistant to moisture and fading. This helps prevent future confusion or accidental energizing of the wires. Fifthly, document the location of the cut wires and their purpose. Keep a record of the circuits they were previously connected to and any relevant information about their function. This information can be valuable for future renovations or repairs. In addition to these best practices, there are some additional considerations to keep in mind. Firstly, consult with a licensed electrician before cutting any wires, especially if you're unsure about their function or safety. A qualified electrician can assess the situation and provide guidance on the best course of action. Secondly, use appropriate safety precautions when working with electricity. Always turn off the power to the circuit before cutting any wires and use insulated tools to prevent electrical shock. Thirdly, dispose of any removed wires properly. Contact your local recycling center or waste disposal facility for information on how to dispose of electrical wiring safely and responsibly. When dealing with dead wires in old homes, it's important to strike a balance between code compliance, safety, and practicality. While complete removal of abandoned wiring is always the ideal solution, it's not always feasible. By following the recommended best practices and taking appropriate safety precautions, you can minimize the risks associated with cutting dead wires and ensure the safety and integrity of the electrical system. Remember to consult with a licensed electrician for guidance and assistance, especially if you're unsure about any aspect of the work.